To paraphrase Hunter S. Thompson, when you get locked into a serious beer collection, the tendency is to push it as far as you can.
Cheers.
Son of a bitch! Give me a drink! One of the night! But it's cramping me! Son of a bitch! If I drink it clean, I'm gonna drink my life away.
The Tap Takeover Podcast exclusively uses the Physics draft beer system to dispense all of the beers we review. Physics utilizes sonic wave technology to create the ideal density microfoam head on your beer. It delivers a fresh from the tap draft beer experience that you can enjoy at home or on the go with no need for any external gas or additives. Just 4 AA batteries. Physics, tasting is believing.
Coming to you from the Solid Non-Fail studio, it's time for the Tap Takeover Podcast. Boys, is there any other way to describe episode 3 than epic?
No, there's not. This is going to get ridiculous, guys.
We've got a live tasting from 4 different Michigan breweries, stories of our Michigan Beercation, live interviews from Dark Horse 4 Elf Party revelers, and lots of questions from our listeners. And so far, the response to the first 2 episodes has also been pretty epic. So thank you to everyone who has liked our Facebook page and our Instagram, followed our Twitter account, looked us up on iTunes and Google Play, and sent questions to taptakeoverpodcast@gmail.com. And we will get to those questions. But first, Andy, why don't you tell our listeners what we have taken over the taps on the Tap Takeover Podcast today?
Well, boys, we're going to have to put on our big boy pants to get through all these. Pretty darn ridiculous what we're going through for you, the listeners, tonight.
What we're putting ourselves through.
Sacrifices are being made.
We're like sacrificial lambs led out to the slaughter here. So we're starting off with Dark Horse from the collection that we got from the 4 Elf Party. We're starting off with the 2016 Bourbon Barrel Aged Plead the 5th. Then we're going to go right into the 2015 Bourbon Barrel Aged Plead the 5th. And then we're going to do both regular versions of Plead the 5th from 2016 and 2015. Then we're going to go into the Bourbon Plead the 5th, which is aged in both bourbon and rum barrels. And then we're going into the 6 pair of legs Bourbon Barrel Aged Maple Porter, which is aged in bourbon barrels and maple barrels. From there, we're going to round out Dark Horse with our Bourbon Barrel Aged 4-guy Imperial Russian Barley Wine Stout, which should be interesting because I've never actually heard of a barley wine stout before, especially an Imperial Russian one. From there, we're going to take a trip to Bell's, and we're going to go for the Black Note, 2016, Batch 1 and Batch 2. And then we're going to go to the Livery for Bourbon Barrel Aged, Triple Weizenbock, the Liberator, which is also Bourbon Barrel Aged, and the Sojourner. And what type of beers were the Liberator and the Sojourner, Alex?
The Liberator was a Doppelbock, and the Sojourner is going to be a black ale. Not a Schwarzbier. Not a Schwarzbier, a black ale. Very specific.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
Then we're going to take a trip to end our episode to Odd Side Ales for the Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Mayan Mocha, the Hipster Brunch, the Rye Hipster Brunch, Hazelnuts, and Munt.
Hazel's nuts?
Hazel's Nuts, yeah.
This is a real whirlwind tour of Western Michigan. It is surprising how far Western Michigan, which really is not much there, has become this hotbed of craft beer out of the Midwest.
Yeah, it's incredible. My girlfriend and I took a trip about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and we were just blown away by all of the little craft breweries, not just in Kalamazoo, but just outside. You've got Founders, you've got Bell's, you're talking about Dark Horse, the Livery, which we just described. It's a who's who.
New Holland, Shorts is out there.
Founders.
Arcadia. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. All those breweries in just one central area. It's a fun trip. And, from Milwaukee, it's just right around the lake. If you're in Chicago or Indiana, it's even closer. If you live in Michigan and you haven't been to these places, you're living in Michigan wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would have to say so.
So let's get into the beers, which came back with us from our epic beer run.
B-double-E-double-R-U-N beer run. All we need is a 10 and a 5 or a car and a key and a sober driver. B-double-E-double-R-U-N.
All right, so Andy, where are we starting?
So we're starting off with the 2016 Bourbon Barrel Aged Plead the 5th. Fantastic Imperial Stout to begin with without aging in bourbon barrels.
And this is fun because we've got a number of different variations on this one. So this is going to be our most basic of the Bourbon Barrel Aged Plead the 5th. We've also got the basic Plead the 5th, but we're going straight into the Bourbon Barrel Aged first. So what do you think, Jim? How's this holding up?
Well, the nose and the bouquet is fantastic. That's the first thing that strikes me. A lot of chocolate on the nose. The bourbon is coming through. It is 2016, so has not had a lot of time to lay down.
It's coming in a little hot.
And I think similar to what we did in the Black Friday vertical, I think we're going to find a marked difference in the 2015 being much smoother. Still a little boozy, a little hot here on the palate.
But Dark Horses, they do a
Great
very
color.
good job of melding their flavors together too.
It is, yes, the flavors themselves, there's no sharp
Yeah,
notes.
it is
great
hot.
color.
It is hot. When we try the regular is actually a lot more viscous than this is too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of nice toasted oak on this one. That oak is...
Yeah,
Yeah, the bourbon's
the barrel's really
come
speaking to me,
It's
which is
smoky,
amazing
yeah.
because it's the first year. You know, it's just 2016, but the barrel's already speaking. That bodes well for even 3 years down the line.
And I'm wondering if we should start seeing where the barrels are coming from, and if the vendor, whether it be Heaven's Hill or Jim Beam, Trace, Buffalo Trace, makes a difference as well. I mean, that would be interesting if we could start tracking
That would be-
origins.
That would be very interesting because I think each individual brand of barrel is going to put something different.
Right,
into
because
the beer.
bourbons taste differently, right? I mean, they have their own recipes. I mean, they age them differently.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I mean, when we talked with Jim McCabe, he had some sort of agreement with a very prominent brandy barreling organization. So I find it fascinating the differences between the different barrels. While we were out in Michigan, we actually stopped at Bell's. Andy and I did, and there they had what was it called? The Overland Stout, where it was two different types of stouts that had been aged for 6 months in Four Roses barrels. Then they pulled that out, put it back into fresh Four Roses barrels for another year. So you're talking 18 months of just crazy aging in these barrels. It came out. It was almost goopy. It was thick.
It was 18.5% too.
Wow.
And
And I'm assuming then double barreled there is the bourbon flavor has to be really strong then.
It was incredible.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
Like almost drinking a glass of bourbon.
But it wasn't as hot. I mean, I think that a lot of the
sure.
elements smoothed it out, but it was definitely bourbon. A lot of bourbon.
All right, Jesus, any notes on this one?
Well, my glass had a hole in it. It's all gone. No, but Jim was saying, you get all those flavors of the bourbon, but I still think it's maybe because it's the newest one, it's a little smoky for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe the one from the previous year might have the edge taken off it, but it's still very good. But yeah, it's boozy, and I got that smoky in the aftertaste. I don't know if you guys picked up on that one. To me, I guess that's what I felt.
All right. Well, we'll get into that 2015 in just a minute. First, let's get into some of the listener feedback. The response to the podcast has been absolutely incredible, and we thank everybody out there who's gotten back to us. We've got a couple of comments on Facebook that I wanted to go through first. Greg Taylor, who's a friend of the podcast from the Physics draft beer system, he said, "I'd love to see a vertical comparison of the 2015 and 2016 Bourbon Barrel Aged Plead the Fifth Stouts from Dark Horse. The triple Weizenbock sounds really interesting from the Livery, and so does the Bourbon Barrel Aged Mayan Mocha and Hipster Brunch from Oddside. I hope you guys are thirsty." And here to tell you, Greg, we're definitely thirsty.
I did not drink any beer all day just to save up for tonight.
I just got back from working a beer shop.
I'm just scared. I am really scared, man.
Put on them big boy pants, Jesus.
Oh, man, it's going to be a long night.
Jesus' liver is already recoiling.
So, you ready to jump right into the 2015?
Yeah, so we're getting right into the 2016 and the 2015. So we're going to give you a really nice comparison. Let's pour the 2015.
Yeah, we are making you wait till the end of the podcast for the rest of the beers you want to hear, though.
Every single one of them.
All right, so this is 2015 Bourbon Barrel Aged Plead the Fifth. Definitely the edge is a little bit off. Not so much the smoky. It's a little, still boozy, but it's a little smoother. I like it.
The barrel is definitely
Yeah.
speaking a little louder in this one.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not yelling. It's not yelling at me, but it's definitely speaking.
No, the edge is definitely off on this.
I mean, 2015, definitely. A lot better than 2016. It's mellowed out a lot. It's gotten a lot more character to it. The barrel characteristics have really started to come out in it. It's still not as viscous as I like it, but it's still, the taste is way better than the original.
Yeah, the bouquet is not as strong as 2016 because it's definitely less hot. I think I'm getting more toffee and coffee notes on this, and a lot of the vanilla is really coming through.
And we should say that we misspoke earlier. So we did not pick this one up at the actual event. Andy was able to procure this one in one of his many beer trades. We were actually able to pick up the 2015 Burb Rum, which we'll be getting into next. We're going to do a little side-by-side comparison comparison of the 2016 Bourbon Rum, which is the Plead the Fifth, aged in bourbon barrels and then rum barrels. Then we're going to try the 2015 and just see what a difference year makes on that one. But for this one right here, I'm going to call this one a win.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
I would say
definitely.
more of a solid non-fail.
You're a hard judge. You're a hard judge.
I say it's a win, and again, another example of how these really big bourbon barrel aged stouts need to lay down for at least a good year.
I just love Dark Horse.
Yeah,
That's
no,
one of my
it's really good.
It's my favorite breweries. I mean, granted, they do some stuff I don't agree with, but it's, you know.
Well, most breweries do. I mean, they all experiment and have to appeal to multiple tastes.
Yes, they do.
And, part of the reason that we went on this Beercation, this epic beer run, was, because Andy is such a big fan. And, with the first child on the way, we thought it'd be a nice last hurrah.
A little send-off.
To go out to Dark Horse. I mean, it was an epic weekend. Let's just talk about the weekend. We went out to Dark Horse. We did the day before the 4 Elf party, stood out in the snow for about 9 hours, cold and snow, just waiting for the chance to get the order form to order these beers. I mean, that's why we're out there. And that was an event in and of itself. Let's get back to the listener feedback here. We've got Delton Buck who writes that the bottle share the day before the 4 Elf Xmas party makes waiting the 10 hours in the cold worth it, as if the beer you get to buy isn't reason enough to go. I recommend a designated driver and or getting a room at a local hotel. He says that he was also part of the group that was under the picnic area right at the front, so he must have been, probably first
I
20.
guarantee we shared a couple beers with them.
So you guys were close to the front too?
We were pretty close. I think we were 22 to 25 people in. So he was probably in the top 15 or so.
That's the best part about it. The line was the actual party. The 4 Elf party's huge the next day, 50 tap lines, but the bottle share alone in the line, I mean, they open the gates at 11 o'clock, you get to come in. You don't get to place your order until 6 o'clock at night. So that's 7 solid hours of bottle shares. And everyone, sort of where your area is in line, you kind of mingle with everyone around you, and you just share whatever the people have.
People bring their best.
So
stuff.
I've only done the line at Black Friday, and that ends, fairly early. Everybody gets theirs. So is there a sellout? Is there a time? You have to be there till 6, I guess.
It's all about bottle counts at this event.
Okay.
They tell you clearly a couple days ahead of time how much they have, and you can if you do the math on it. Someone said that they did the math on all the bottles they had, and you had to be over.
They released the numbers on how many barrels and how many bottles of each variant that they were going to be releasing. So somebody did the actual math on that, and what was it? The top
I think it was
400
the
people
top
were going to get everything.
People could get a full allotment of everything because they limit how much of certain ones you can get.
So
you could get 2 cases of the 2016 Bourbon Barrel Aged Plead the Fifth. You could get 2 4-packs of the Bourbon Rum 2016. You could get 2 bottles of the Bourbon Rum 2015. You could get
2 bottles of the 2016 Barley wine.
Yeah, the Barley wine Stout.
2 cases of the 4 pairs of legs, the maple bourbon barrel maple porter.
I think it was 3 pairs of legs, and then the one we didn't get that one. We got the 6 pairs of legs.
That's the one, yeah.
And it was 2 4-packs. But all said and done, you got people spending in line to drop $300-$400.
Drop a small fortune, a small fortune on their beer sellers.
So what sold out? Just within the first 40.
First 400 people.
400.
But the key is the earlier you are in line, there's a pickup window the next day that starts an hour before the actual 4 Elf party starts. Okay, so they do it in half-hour increments
and 50
by 50s.
People, yeah.
Okay, and
so for the first 50 people,
they
they
know
were
what they're
able to
doing.
pick up in the first.
They know
hour.
what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was more limited on the variations, and especially the stuff from 2015. I believe they still had Bourbon Barrel Aged Plead the Fifth at the general store there. A couple months after the event. So they make sure not to sell out of that one. But it's the different variants, the Bourbon Rum, that are very restricted, so that everybody can get a little bit as opposed to one person getting all of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great way to do it. It was a really, really well-run event. I would say it's more fun than the Black Friday one, because the Black Friday kind of snakes around a neighborhood, and it's kind of weird if you're drinking in front of somebody's house. With this one, it was all in the back by their huge beer garden that they've put in.
It's a compound, really.
Absolutely
They
beautiful.
call it a Dark Horse compound.
Yeah, there were 600 people at least, I know, that went through that line.
Well, that's
At least from what they told us the next day when we picked up our orders, I think it was like somewhere in the mid 600s people that actually put in an order.
Oh, that's crazy. Now, you guys also got interviews as well. You were recording interviews during the party.
Yeah, so like we were saying, the best part of the entire day was the tastings. I mean, people brought Gray Monday and Black Tuesday from the brewery. We tried some Orange Julius, which is a really big up-and-coming IPA, one of the best in the nation.
From Treehouse Brewing,
That's the one.
which now dominates the top 10 list on Rate Beer and Beer Advocate, which I will withhold judgment on for a future episode.
I mean, there's Abraxas. I mean, anything you could imagine.
Yep, we brought a couple of Black Fridays so people could try those. It's really cool because we had people from Buffalo who brought all of their local beers. We had people from California who brought their local beers. People from all over come to this party, and it was incredible. It was an incredible time.
Now, Andy, I know you do beer trading. Did you make contacts there for like future trades, or
I made 3 trades while we were on the vacation.
Ones that he had set up beforehand.
any future ones like based on that, or did you make contacts? or-
No, I mean, I still have their name. I have their contact. So, you know, if they have something that they're looking to trade for something that I can get around here, you know, they might shoot me a message on Facebook or something like that. But I mean, that's how I acquired the Black Note we're going to taste tonight, both batches.
So what did people think about Black Friday?
Oh, they really liked it. Yeah. I mean, we were trying a number of different Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Stouts at the time. It, you know, like Jim said, it's kind of the du jour.
Yeah, it was hot coming out.
So yeah, it was fantastic. It was 2 or 3 months removed from the release. So
That was 2 or 3 weeks.
oh, was it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought they turned out really good, and you know we're gonna ask a few people. So let's get into some of the interviews here. All right, we are here at the Dark Horse Brewing Bourbon Barrel Aged Plead the Fifth release party, also known as the Four Elves party, but I've been actually calling it Beer Christmas. Yeah, Beer Christmas, because I've never been so excited to wake up so early on a December day since I was, 10 years old. It's been amazing. I'm here with Andy, and Andy, what do you think about this event?
Oh, it's pretty epic, man. Epic beer shares. We got a line of bottles across the picnic table. We're about to start the second row.
So we traveled all the way from Milwaukee out to Marshall, Michigan, just outside of Kalamazoo. We got here at about 9:30 in the morning. Is that about right?
Yeah, just about 9:30. Stopped for breakfast first. Ended up about 21st and 22nd in line at 9:30. Doors didn't open till 11.
So we were only out in the snow. We'll say it snowed this year. Last year, apparently, it was 50 degrees and everybody was comfortable. We're in the snow, but, you know, for Beer Christmas, I'd like to have the snow. I kind of like it. This is amazing. So we're going to go around right now and interview a few people at this event and talk about the beer sharing program on Friday when we're just waiting for our numbers. We don't even get to pick this up until tomorrow.
There's a lot of great bottles. Not too many whales, but a lot of really good bombers lined across our table that we've already tried. There's about 250, 300 people in line right now, and they don't even start releasing the order forms until 6 o'clock, and it's only 2:30.
This is going to be epic. So, let's get into the interviews. All right, our first interview, I'm here with
Steve Dickman,
and you are from?
Buffalo, New York.
All right, so what is your favorite IPA on the table so far?
On the table, haven't been many IPAs so far. That guy was pretty good from Witch's Hat. What else do we have? Julius. I think so far Julius probably takes it.
And what was your favorite stout on the table?
Stout. Wasn't the brewer. The brewery's a strong ale. Might go barrel aged 1050 probably is my favorite so far.
And in general, just in your life, what has been your favorite beer that you've ever tried?
Fresh CBS. Can't touch fresh CBS. That stuff's so good. I love maple syrup, so that would be my favorite by far.
Great one. Thank you. All right, what's your name?
My name's Matt Wagner,
And where are you from?
Ann Arbor, Michigan.
All right, what's the best IPA you've tried on the table so far?
The best IPA, it has to be the Julius, or I also had a really good Chicago double IPA that I actually forget the name. Mike, do you remember the name? Yeah, it was really good. It was from, the double Daisy Cutter, I think.
And your favorite stout on the table, or dark?
The favorite stout, I think, has to be the Parabola or the, what was the other one? Yeah, we drank like 15, but I think the Parabola plus the ones that taste like the Parabola are up there.
And in your life, what has been your favorite beer so far?
In my whole life, Plead the Fifth, 2015, Stout. It might change this year to a 2016, but who knows?
Awesome. Thank you.
What's up?
All right, what's your name?
Mike?
And where are you from?
From Ann Arbor, Michigan.
All right. right, and what has been your favorite IPA on the table so far?
I think Julius takes it, but this guy from Witch's Hat is right up there, honestly. It's doing really good things. So.
Nice. And your favorite stout or dark beer on the table?
You know what's surprising? My favorite was 70K from Against the Grain from Louisville. I thought that was phenomenal. If you can get the Bourbon Barrel Aged version, go get it. It's awesome.
And your favorite beer in your life that you've ever tried?
Pliny the Elder. I got to go with the California Original. I just think it's awesome, well-balanced, perfect beer. So.
Fantastic. We just tried that this past weekend, and we loved it. We loved it.
It's great. So, awesome. Thank you.
So thanks to everybody, that stepped up to our microphone and gave us some reviews. They were most of the people that we were around in line. We actually took a tour with them too, which we'll get to a little bit later. We're going to jump right into the next beer, which is the 2016 Bourbon Rum, Plead the Fifth, and it's actually pretty good. I mean, I really like it. Definitely got an interesting taste. It's a little off from the regular Bourbon Barrel Aged Plead the Fifth, and I think the bourbon and the rum barrels are a fantastic mix with this one.
Yeah. Do you detect any differences having been aged in two separate barrels? Let's talk about that, because that's really the defining characteristic of this one compared to the Bourbon Barrel Aged Plead the Fifth. Jim, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, for me, I love smelling beers. I think it really imparts the differences. So a different bouquet on this, some sweetness I think is coming from the rum barrel.
Definitely some sweetness.
I think a little bit muted on the roasted notes, and I guess there's some rum flavor. I guess that's what it is. I'm not really familiar with rum aged beers, so there is that note back there that I'm going to just associate with rum. So you're kind of our barrel master. So is there a difference between the barrel used for bourbon compared to the barrel used for rum? There was definitely a difference when we were talking about the brandy barrels in the last episode with Jim McCabe. There's a huge difference between the brandy barrels and the bourbon barrels. I believe brandy barrels were the French oak. Was that right? Yes, new French oak. So that means that they're uncharred, and then sherry was I think new American because they wanted to be porous, and then bourbon are charred American.
Okay, so how about a rum barrel? What are we dealing with?
Interesting enough, rum is aged in used bourbon barrels. So actually, dark rums can be considered bourbon barrel aged dark rums.
Okay, so it comes full circle then.
Yes, it does. So again, you got your charred American oak that's used there for your dark rums. Now, for your clear to light rums, they're aged in stainless, so they're not actually imparted any flavor from the barrel. So
that makes sense. Jesus, what do you think of this one?
Well, yeah, this one's, definitely boozy, for sure. Definitely boozy. I don't know how to describe I'm not, much of a rum guy, but I feel like a spiciness. I don't know if that's a way to describe it, but just a little bit of a bite to it.
I think that makes some sense.
You know what I mean?
Like a spiced rum kind of a flavor?
Like I said, I'm not a rum guy, but it's boozy, and you can get that in the back end.
I would challenge that because you love rum chata.
I would also challenge that it's not rum. That is not rum.
Is that an accurate statement?
I do love rum chata. But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
It has that little bite at the end, and man, that's boozy. That's all I can say. And when I taste stuff like this, and I know there's one after, I just can't wait because I want to see if the edge is taken off.
Yeah, 2015, right after this one. The only point of reference I have for something like this is a good friend of ours. He's brought a few times to different sporting events and Super Bowl parties and things like that. It's a Scotch that's been aged in rum barrels, so you get like the smokiness of the Scotch, but you're also getting this really sweet, very smooth rum flavor as well. It's one of the best Scotches that I've ever tried. I don't know exactly what the name of that is, but hopefully I can come up with it for a future podcast.
Hey, this is beer. This is a beer podcast, so you don't have to know.
But yeah, shout out to thank you to Ben Stocks for coming up with that liquor. It's really the only jumping off point I have for this beer, and it's a good point of reference to have. Andy, let's get into the 2015 Bourbon Rum.
All right.
Whoa.
Right.
Super fruity.
Yeah, boys, cheers.
2015. 2015 Bourbon Rum.
2015.
Jesus, what do you think of this one? There's a marked difference between this one and the 2016.
Immediate reaction, I don't feel it's the same beer. I honestly don't. It's.
Do you think they tweaked the recipe, or is it just the aging?
I don't believe they would, or else it'd be totally different.
I would say it's the barrel.
Okay, so you think there is something slightly different? I think it's just the aging.
Different rum company.
No.
That, or honestly, it could be that the year of aging has allowed the rum barrel to come in way over the top now.
Yeah, if that's the case, the barrel's yelling on this one. It's not just not just speaking. It's
No,
yelling.
it's smooth. What a drastic difference in
It's-
1 year.
It's totally smoothed out.
smooth. It's
Super
it's-
smooth.
Yeah, you're getting like fruit elements to
It's
it.
super fruity.
You're not just
super
getting
smooth,
that like
super fruity.
not just that spiced rum element, but there's like a real fruitiness to
Oddly
it.
enough, I don't feel that spiciness because I did in the almost like the aftertaste.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it now, but the smell is way more intense.
It's
This
almost
is-
like a rum-filled date, almost. To me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm actually almost getting like I hate to say this, but like a pumpkin. Actually, this reminds me a little bit of the Sasquatch, where you get the grilled sweet potato,
You know, you're not
but
that
it's
far
not
off.
spiced.
Yeah, you're not that far off. Like
And maybe that's why I like
And
it.
that's why I think the rum barrel is really coming through here. I think they may have kept the rest of the barrels the same, but it's just that year
I
of
just
aging.
can't believe
it's
in
like-
1 year it's different. That different.
It
Well,
is super, it's completely
I
different.
can't wait for a year from now when we're doing our year in review episode, and hopefully we can get a 2017 Burb rum and see if how that's changed, or even get a 2016 that's been aged a year and see if it's the same market difference. We can go back, replay some of our thoughts on this one, and give our thoughts on the next series. It's really going to be a fantastic.
Andy, what do you think?
I mean, it's just really good. It's
Yeah,
a lot,
this is what-
better than 2016. It's
Yeah,
like,
if this is what the 2016 is going to turn into, then lay down your Burb rums.
But like kind of the challenge, your statement is, I wonder if that 16 will in fact taste like this. If there is a difference in the barrels, if there's a difference in the recipe, I just think it tastes so different. Something
kind of-
has to be different.
what kind of flavors do you guys think are coming out of here? To me, it's like date, fig, raisiny flavors.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
With the rum just like poured over the top.
Yeah, it's like a port wine compared to a wine.
Yeah.
Much more pronounced flavors.
No, it's
I
like-
don't have the words right now.
No, as it kind of I think of the beer as the traveling. You smell it, you get that first taste and the aftertaste. It's like you get different levels of taste as you go through. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
no, it's really good.
The
This one.
nose is reduced, as you would expect during aging, but the flavors cascading over the palate.
Yeah, no, it's very good.
It's really aged exceptionally.
I wish we could have gotten more than two 12-ounce bottles of this.
So there is
per
one more
person.
for next year. Okay.
There's one more.
I have-
That'll be
I
in
have-
my that'll be in my cellar, and we will do that one a year from now. We'll see.
I got two too. that
Okay.
I haven't touched.
Awesome. Yeah. So we have some for next year.
Breaking news. You heard it here first.
All right. And speaking of the aging process, let's get into some more listener feedback. This one comes from Scott Kempen here in Milwaukee. So Scott writes, "I love the show. Just listened to episode 2. Super fun. I am interested in starting a serious beer collection. I want to know how to cellar beer. What temp? Bottle on its side or upright? How do you know when to drink the beer at its peak? What is the best stuff to cellar right now? What would make for a good vertical tasting in the future? Is there a place where I can cheat and buy some perfectly aged beer? Can I sell my aged beer for huge profit? I like the idea that you will post the beers that you will be sampling in the next podcast. And finally, I don't have to be the sober guy listening to my friends brag about the really good beer. I can have a beer with you guys. I've been liking the origin stories of the recipes and the name of these beers from the people that invented them. Very cool. Keep it up and take over. Signed, friend of the show, Scott Kempen." So thank you again, Scott. Thank you for reaching out to us. And these are some really, really interesting questions. We've been kind of hitting this podcast from maybe an expert's perspective. Not that we're experts.
We just
But
drink a lot.
We've been practicing for this for years. But I guess our target audience has been more people who are already into this sort of stuff. But we've also got a lot of people who are just getting into it. So for those people, Jim, let's talk about the cellaring process. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so first of all, to start off, we've started off our first 2 episodes with big beers, though most of us are really...
And big brewers as well.
And big brewers, yes. And we've done a lot of beers that require cellaring, and we've talked with Ross about his symbol that he's doing to indicate cellaring. But we should point out that the vast majority of beers should be drunk as fresh as possible. So that beers that need to be cellared are actually a minority, which is part of why Russ wants to put a symbol on there to indicate why you should be and which ones you should be cellaring. So
Yeah, what did Russ say? He said somewhere over 8%,
He said 8%
but even
is-
10% is a little more optimal. Anything over 10%.
I think the big part of it for me is the high alcohol, and if it's not the hoppy beers. The hoppy beers you drink right away.
Yeah, hoppy beers you want to drink as soon as possible. So there are really 3 classifications of beers that are eligible to be aged.
Okay, what are those 3?
They are strong, so 8% is really the minimum. You want to shoot for 10 or above. Sours are another beer that really need to be aged. And the third one is smoked beers, especially your German Rauch beers should also be laid down for some time as well.
That makes some sense, because I've had some smoked porters where it's like I'm sucking on an ashtray. It's just so smoky.
Yeah, they definitely need to be laid down to kind of mellow out, and as we've seen with the barrels, get rid of some of that hotness from the alcohol, and again with smokes, you want to mellow that out. And with the sours, they contain yeast and bacteria that really require extra time to do their work and work their magic.
I'll say that when we were at the Livery, so most of the offerings at Dark Horse and the other places that we went to were, pretty basic, Imperial Stouts and those sort of things. But when we were at the Livery, I would say the vast majority of the Bourbon Barrel Aged stuff that they had available at their special release bottle party were sours. Would you say that's right, Andy?
Yeah, sours, actually, even though I'm not a big fan of sours, they do interest me. Because if you're looking at like a barrel-aged Imperial Stout or a strong ale, you're not going to lay that down for more than 10 to 12 years. There's a lot of people that'll transition their collections into sours because you can lay those down for decades.
Yes. In fact, a Cantillon Lambic will lay down for 20 years.
Wow.
Which is pretty normal. And then for like a Chimay Blue, like Grand Reserve, you really don't want to do more than like 10. One of Scott's questions is, how do you know how long to lay it down for and when is it going to hit its peak? You have to do your research a little bit, know what beer you're laying down. I would say that a lot of beers are probably going to be 6 months to 2 years. I think it's really for us Americans here. We've got a lot of stouts here. So I think 2-3 years is probably your max on these. As you saw with the 2013 Black Friday IPA, that was way past its prime, right? I mean, that shouldn't have been
different sort of beer.
laid down at all.
Beer, yeah.
Because we tasted a lot of those notes. When a beer is past its prime, it goes stale. You get a lot of papery, kind of wet cardboard flavors.
And actually, I thought that was one of the most interesting parts of the interview with Jim McCabe from Milwaukee Brewing Company is when he was talking about the Stone Anniversary series, where you can actually go online. They have a site where you can check out people's reviews of the beer as they're, like when they're drinking it and how it's tasting. So Stone basically catalogs all of that for you, so you can see when those windows are occurring. Because all the beer is brewed at the same time, so it should all be aging, factoring in, the cellar conditions and everything. It should be aging about the same time. Colder cellar is going to actually prevent some of the aging, but then a warmer cellar might actually speed up some of that aging. So there are differences in the actual cellar conditions that can affect the beer.
Yeah, absolutely. Too cold, I mean, if you're cellaring in a fridge at 35 degrees, it's going to take a really long time to age your beers. And then again, if you're too hot, it's going to age way too fast. Plus, you're going to get off and stale flavors. So you really want to be between 50 and 60 degrees is your optimal temperature. And if you can have a separate refrigerator or a root cellar or a space in your basement, for those of us here in the Midwest that have basements, if you can keep it between 50 and 60 degrees. Also, another thing to consider is humidity. Very similar to wine, you want to have a high humidity area. So really between 50 and 70% to help keep all of that alcohol and flavors capped in the bottle and not evaporating out.
Especially if you're dealing with a cork. A cork situation is going to be losing air, so it's good that cork stays wet or at least hydrated.
That one you put on your side, on that side.
So you would for wine. This is, I think, where wine and beer differentiate. And my personal opinion is that all beer should be stored upright, including those corked beers. My preference is because a lot of these beers that are aged are bottle conditioned. So you've got yeast and sediment that's going to be in the beer, and you you want all that to settle on the bottom. So, and if you've got proper humidity, a cork beer is going to be just fine. You don't need the liquid from the beer itself to keep the cork lasting as long. And if you're really going to keep a beer for a really, really long time, you're going to recork it anyways, like you would a wine. So, like a really 100-year wine should probably have been recorked twice in its lifetime.
Man,
So,
I don't have that kind of patience. Man.
Yeah, I don't.
well,
either.
no one has 100 years to lay down, right? But
So my advice to Scott also is, if you like beer, drink it.
yes, and that's something that Jim said. He kind of corrected me and said you can never drink a beer too soon. You can only drink it too late. So that's the other thing. And there's been a bit, as I was researching some of this, there's been a lot of pushback or backlash on cellaring beer from a certain segment. I'm not sure where it is, but there's posts on it and such.
There's a lot of back and forth. I mean, like if you look at barrel aged stouts as opposed to just regular stouts. Okay, so a regular stout, I'd agree, is if you're not drinking that within 2 years, you probably shouldn't. It's going to go bad on you. But a barrel aged, that can extend out to that maybe 6, 7, 8 year range. So if they actually did a Bourbon County YouTube video where they did like the whole line of Bourbon
Yeah,
Counties.
I saw that.
Oh wow, I hadn't
The
seen
whole
that.
line since it started.
You know,
to
oddly enough,
2016.
which one did they say was the best one?
I think that was like the first one, wasn't
No,
it?
they said the 2016 was the best
Yeah,
one.
well.
The last one. But you know what I'm
The
saying?
one that was still for sale.
That's Anheuser-Busch.
Sounds like propaganda.
Marketing.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just saying.
Actually, Stone did the same thing with their vertical. I don't know which one they picked, but they had everything from, was it 2001 or 2002 all the way to 2012 that they did, and they had kept them all. So
That's incredible.
So a pro tip here in cellaring is to
Tips from the pros.
buy multiple bottles.
Oh
So
yeah, that's
go
yeah,
ahead, drink
100%,
one,
yeah.
within, I would say at least a month of buying it, and then get a feel, at least you get it. One of the articles I was reading, there's a gentleman online who said, I'm done with cellaring because I bought 3 bottles of Jester King and laid them down for 18 months and they were all bad, so I never got to experience, and he'd bought them already aged somewhat.
So
Don't
wait a
keep
minute.
up on the news either. Sometimes infected batches get out there, and if you wait too long, there's a certain time period where you can be able to return it. Otherwise, you're SOL.
Yeah,
So-
Goose Island dealt with that
Yeah.
in 2015. It was
No, it was last year.
It was
Yeah,
in 2016.
2016
No,
got
it was
40% of their batch.
Yeah.
It was
really
2015. 2015.
Oh, was it
Yeah,
2015?
2015.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you
2016
expect
was fine.
you expect to lose a certain amount of your batch, but not the entire thing. I mean, I'd be interested to know. Right now, Central Waters is holding their anniversary party. As we're speaking, as we're recording on this Saturday night, Central Waters is holding their anniversary party, and they're known for pushing the edge on how long you can age something. Their black gold is aged for 3 years in bourbon barrels. I mean, they're really, really pushing the edge on that stuff. But so they expect to lose a certain amount of that batch every year. Some barrels are going to go bad. It's the nature of the beast. When you add air to the fermentation process and add air to the aging process, things are going to happen. Unexpected consequences are going to happen. Sometimes they're amazing consequences, and it makes the beer taste better. Other times it's a little bit questionable. So you expect to lose a certain amount, but Goose Island in 2015 lost a good portion of their.
That's a big chunk.
Yeah.
Did we hit on all of Scott's questions?
So I would say
Prices.
I've got one more. You want to make sure in your cellar that it is dark.
Yes.
Light is the enemy of beer. So you want to make sure.
Putting it in a box can help with that.
Yep.
The color of the bottle really affects that. Like
Yep.
people talk about how skunky Heineken beer is, and part of that is because it's in a green bottle, which lets the most amount of light in. So
Yeah, second only to a clear bottle.
Yeah, like a Newcastle.
It only blocks 25% of the UV.
So a dark brown bottle is really your best bet.
Also, something people may not be aware of, they may have it in a dark corner, but they may have fluorescent lights. Fluorescent light is also a really bad light source for beer, so you want to make sure you're either incandescent or LED.
Good call. Good tip.
So
And then
pro tip there.
I guess the other thing, it's hard to keep up with all your beer, and if you do have some hoppy stuff, like Jim was saying earlier, if I'm not gonna get to it, I just throw it in the fridge right away. I have another fridge that just prolongs that process,
Yeah.
because I know it's not gonna.
Yeah.
I'm not aging it, but I'm preventing it from getting skunky or bad.
Yeah, another pro
Yes.
tip. Get yourself a beer fridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's if it's a higher alcohol and fits the criteria that Jim said, I don't put it in the fridge. I just age it, you know?
Yep. And then
But if I know if it's hoppy and I'm like, damn it, I'm not gonna get to this, throw it in the fridge and I know it's gonna last a while. I'm still not gonna age it for 3 years, but I know I have a little bit more time to get to it.
Yeah, and actually for all bottled beer, if it's refrigerated, it can be good up to 6 months, whether it be pasteurized or non-pasteurized. I think for non-pasteurized, I think you want to do it 45 days is your really max there. So another pro tip here for your beers that are cellared, place a sticker or neck tag on it and with a date, especially if you plan on growing your cellar. And we've got some folks that I'm sure have hundreds of bottles in their beer cellar. You start to forget, especially when you drink too many 10% beers. So take them.
So what would you put on that tag? Would you say this is when I bought it, this is when it was bottled, or this is when I should drink it?
This is the date when I put it down.
Okay, that's smart.
And actually, I was going to start, because I got so much scattered around, I was going to organize it, like put the higher alcohol on one end so I can slowly get to it, you know? Because right now it's all sprinkled and I don't know what's what.
That's smart.
Yeah, so I'm going to put higher alcohol like on one end and slowly start to lower alcohol hoppy so I can get to that first.
I am interested in this last part of Scott's question. And this one I'm going to throw to you, Andy, because you're our resident trader. Scott asks, is there a place where I can cheat and buy some perfectly aged beer? And can I sell my aged beer for huge profit? Now, you kind of eschew the selling of beer and the buying of aged beers, but you're all about the trading. So what can you tell us about that?
Well, I mean, you can assess trade value. You can buy them off of my beer seller. BeerBlackBook.com will be able to give you an approximate value in recent sales. I kind of use that to assess different trade value, just kind of make sure I'm not getting ripped off. But if you really want something in a trade, you're going to make a trade for it. I've had stuff that I've given away that people are like, oh my God, they're from a different state. They don't have access to it. It's way easier for me to get, where they're going to give me a ton of their beer for it. And I'm like, yay, I made out. And there's been other ones where I've probably given up because I really wanted that beer to begin with. A lot of people, I mean, there's kind of a stigma against just buying it outright. If you're on a lot of these trading Facebook pages, people really get after each other on them too. Where, oh, you're getting ripped off. That's a terrible trade. People comment on other people's trades.
And I think that's really the fun part of this listener feedback section, is that what we've done in the first 2 episodes is we've sat down to try and get to know some of the big brewers here in town in Milwaukee. But this 3rd episode tasting allows you as listeners to get to know us, your podcasters. So please make sure to send us your questions and your thoughts on the beers we're drinking at taptakeoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's all one word, taptakeoverpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll continue to post our tap list before we podcast so you can orient your comments and even drink along with us while you listen to your podcast. So what do we have up next on the taps here, Jesus?
Well, we took away the barrel, and we're doing Plead the Fifth, 2016 and 2015. We're going to just do them side by side real quick.
No rum barrels, no bourbon
rum barrel,
barrels.
just bareback.
Raw, naked.
Raw.
We're going raw dog on these two. So what are your first impressions of the 2016?
Definitely, it's almost the same feeling I had with the bourbon barrel, but it's not boozy. So you still get the smokiness, it's a more mellow taste.
I love it. The the roasted malts are really coming off
and
this.
Maybe I can do like a couple of these instead of, it's more mellow. I just would consider it more mellow, not so boozy, but still smoky. You still get that flavor.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really as complex because you're missing a couple levels of flavor that the oak barrel imparts, but you get more of the malt and the different roasted notes that it imparts.
Yeah, it's mellow. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. It's just mellow.
Yeah. It's mellow, but it's also super powerful, coming in at over 11%.
Well, maybe it's because we've had what we've had.
Yes.
You're
not getting that bourbon taste. You're not getting the barrel taste. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, when you put it through that physics machine, the head tastes like chocolate milk.
Yeah, you still get that nice cascade effect with the dark beer. I'm very impressed with the 2016. Now let's check out the 2015.
Oh, that's
cheers, boys.
Cheers.
That's smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, another year has really helped this beer a lot.
Oh man, yeah. What a difference a year makes.
It's a regular stout.
A lot more of the minor notes are coming through.
Yeah, so we're not talking about barrel notes coming through. We're just talking about minor notes in the beer that are coming through now. So instead of I would say the 2016 tastes more roasty, but I would say that the roastiness is kind of settled into the beer now, and we're just getting like, I don't know, just very distinct notes of barley and chocolate. I mean, you can almost
chocolatey.
You can almost differentiate the different malts and things that were used in here. I'm getting chocolate. I'm getting a little bit of.
It's the swing from like the smoky to chocolatey.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And a little bit more fruit too. I think some of the
exactly.
raisin, date flavors are coming through as well.
I like the viscosity of them too. They're a little more thick, viscous than the bourbon barrel aged ones. And if you actually look at the bottom of the bottles, you're gonna see some of the leftovers of the chocolate and just the viscosity of
just the sediment,
just sediment gooping on the bottom.
So are we in agreement that the 2015 tastes better than 2016? But most likely same recipe. I can't think that they're changing that, but just that year of aging it made all the difference. Can we agree on that?
Yep, absolutely.
Definitely agree on that.
All right, up next we've got the 4 Guy Bourbon Barrel Aged.
So we've got the Bourbon Barrel Aged 4 Guy, which is an Imperial Russian barley wine stout. And then, Andy, what is that 6 pairs of legs?
It's got 6 pairs of legs. It's a maple bourbon barrel aged maple porter. So it was aged in bourbon barrels and maple syrup barrels.
Maple bourbon barrels.
Maple bourbon barrels.
Don't undersell.
A whole lot of maple.
Don't undersell it.
That's where the 6 pairs of legs come.
All right, well, let's put a bow on this dark horse excursion, and let's do the 6 pairs of legs first, and then we'll end with the 4 Guys Barley Wine Imperial Stout, which I've never even heard of that style. So let's finish with that one. What do we think about the 6 pairs of legs? Jim, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's really tasty. The maple adds great sweetness to the porter. It's not overly roasty, which is interesting.
I would say that maple gives it kind of a velvety texture. Am I crazy in thinking that? It's really, really smooth.
Like you said, velvety, like biscuity undertones. What do you think, Hazers?
Man, what is
Maple's
what's
intense.
the alcohol in this?
The alcohol in
it's
this
roasty.
it's
lower.
it's only 8.25.
So it's right on the edge of cellarability, right?
Yeah.
We said 8 is what you need. So this is right on that edge.
I wouldn't cellar this at all. I love
really?
this.
I
But I just love this. This is I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it getting sweeter because when you age something, you want it to get sweeter, get smoother. This is sweet. This is
very
smooth.
Yeah.
Just an awesome color.
I'm getting a lot of grape too, kind of white wine. That white wine kind of sweetness.
I was gonna say, honestly, it's like it actually has a really nice color too. I mean,
I actually for Christmas this year I gave a 4-pack of this. You know, we were only able to pick up 2 4-packs. I gave one of those 4-packs to my girlfriend's brother-in-law. He actually does his own syrup. He taps his own maple trees, makes his own syrup. So he was really excited about putting these away and doing one of them when he actually does the tapping and the whole process to make the syrup, and then putting the rest of them away for next year and see how they change. And, maybe drinking another beer here and there. but yeah, he's really looking forward to it. Yeah, a little shout out to Peter Hartz.
no, but I honestly would think this is what you would taste if you aged it because it's sweet.
I kind of do too, because
what I
I
mean?
honestly,
This
when we first got back in December, I actually opened one of these. So I was just intrigued by what it would taste like. It actually tastes exactly the same today as it did early December.
But it has the consistency of, I'm looking at it, it's almost like a wine, like Jim was saying. Like it doesn't have that fizziness of this other.
It doesn't
beer.
have a.
You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't have a lot of that
died down
Belgian.
super quick on it.
Yeah.
That Belgian lacing, there's not as much of it. It's thicker, but it's not thick. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's a syrupy quality to it. It's the syrup barrels.
I think
mean,
that's a good way to describe it.
if you think about the syrup, I mean, the syrup barrels, like whenever a brewery's going to get barrels from a distillery with actual liquor barrels, bourbon, gin, brandy, what have you, there's going to be some left over in the bottom of the barrel, okay? Which usually they dump out into bottles and the employees take home. Then they put after they're done testing it, then they put their liquid in it to age. So with the maple syrup barrel, I don't care how long you have the thing upside down, you're not getting all the syrup out of the barrel.
Yeah.
Good call.
Absolutely. I would, though, start to question, aging this, though, because it is involving maple syrup, and it's obviously got maple syrup in it. That may oxidize a lot more quickly than something that's just a straight bourbon barrel.
Do you think the sweetness will fall away a little bit and become a little more subtle?
I cannot imagine this getting.
I would actually think that may be what happens here, if I had to hazard a guess.
That would be
There's going to be
best case scenario.
some yeast that's going to be active. A couple guys still alive in there. They're going to eat away at any sugar that's still available, and maple syrup is easily fermentable.
I mean, the way I can describe this this as if it were almost like a simulated aged beer. Like this is what a 6-year beer would taste like ish.
Wow.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? It's like it's just sweet. It doesn't have a lot of fizz to it. It just
Yeah.
has a lot of those qualities that you would think of an aged beer.
Well, that's an interesting take. What is your take on the next one we've got here, the barley wine Imperial Stout? This is
Real Russian stuff.
Jim.
Yeah.
You did a little bit of research. Is there a single other competitor on the market for this?
It does look like it does appear to be something out of Chicago Brewing Company. They're about the only ones I've been able to find that has a barley wine / stout. So
This is more barley wine than stout.
I'm going to hazard a guess.
Yeah, but
They're calling it a / stout because it is much darker than a regular
That's what
barley
it
wine.
has.
And it's thick.
One of my favorite beers is Bridge Burner by
Lakefront.
which is a American strong
Friend of the
ale,
show.
friend of the show, / barley wine, and it is not nearly this dark. Especially that head. That's a stout head. So maybe perhaps they add more darker barley
But
in the mix.
Great
in the
lacing
grain
on
bill.
this one.
The stout part of it is purely aesthetic. It's the head, it's the darkness, but I don't think it's the taste. The taste is totally barley wine.
Yes, it is. It's a very sweet.
There's really not. I mean, yeah, it looks. I almost feel like they called it / stout because it looks like it. I'm sitting in here. It looks like it. It's dark. It has the fizz to it, just like a stout would. But man, there is nothing stout about the taste.
Well, Jesus, I would disagree when you say this is more barley wine than stout, because I'm actually not a huge fan of the barley wine style, and this one I can really get into. So it's definitely different than a barley wine. I kind of like the fact that it's a little darker, that it's a little bit roasty, not over the top. I mean, not into the plead the fifth
but it's
kind of
not-
territory, but there's roastiness to it that I don't get out of a lot of barley wines,
But it's
which are
still- but the
typically a little
sweetness.
sweeter. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the sweetness is so overpowering in this that it's more. I guess that's the only angle I'm coming at it from. So what do you guys think? Is it more barley wine than stout? I mean, do you guys sense the stout?
My take on it is it's very sweet. It's got that thickness and viscosity to it that a stout has. It also has the smoky, charred flavors that a stout has that are kind of coming in on the back end after the sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, you're clocking in at a high 13.6 ABV on this thing, which that's right up barley wine's alley.
Yeah, but still, it's pouring out that pitch black.
Yeah.
It's got the nice tan head.
Beautiful
really good
lacing.
lacing.
I do
yeah.
agree with Andy in that back end.
The stout comes in on the back end.
The smell, the initial taste, all barley wine, appearance, and the back end stout.
Okay, I think that's accurate.
You know what I mean?
An interesting little story too. I mean, these guys do different things with stouts. Okay, we're higher up in the line count for the people in line. Okay, an actual brewery reps would come out. They came out throughout the day on their breaks and brought stuff that wasn't available to the public. So they'd let us sample some of the stuff that has happened in years past. We'd give them, we gave them a couple bottles of Fantasy Factory and Velveteen Habit from Wisconsin. We tried a blood orange stout. It was just
Weird.
It was orange. It had the thickness. It tasted like a stout, but it was almost like an orange dreamsicle. It was pure orange beer.
It was unlike anything I've ever tasted.
It was
really
incredibly
good.
weird to be drinking it, and you're like, this is beer, and it actually has the mouthfeel, the taste of a stout, but you're also tasting that orange dreamsicle.
It's one of those weird things. Like, have you guys ever had a lighter colored stout? They do these things, like a blonde stout, where they're getting like all of the coffee and the roasted flavors, but not any of the darkness. Like, that's kind of the only thing I can compare it to. When you look at something and you expect it to taste like one thing, but then it ends up tasting like something completely different.
just kinda-
It's a little bit mind blowing.
It just fucks with you, man.
It fucks with it.
It definitely does.
Honestly, for me, I'm not a big fan of this. It's a little too sweet for me.
okay.
Too much of the
Can
barley
we just
wine
pause
comes
so I
through.
can stab Jim?
No,
I really like it because I like the
I
sweetness.
like the different perspectives on it. This would be the first one where any of us has had a different opinion.
So
a
I want to
disagreement
hear
on-
Jim. Give me the breakdown.
Yeah, it's, the nose is really nice. I mean, it's a unique nose, great smell, but as soon as I taste it, it's really sweet. Like, I mean, it's a little sickly sweet for me.
cloyingly sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's no roasted notes from, at least on my palate. I'm getting
Not
no
even on the back end,
roast,
do you
nah,
taste like-
nothing. I'm getting alcohol and sweetness.
So are you saying, let's break this down. Are you saying that you don't like it because it's a barley wine and you don't like barley wines? Or are you saying that as a stout barley wine combination, you're kind of not on board with that?
At least this iteration, I'm not really on board because I'm not getting enough roasted notes to say it's a stout. Yeah, I mean, it's toned down from most barley wines, but it's still.
I mean, I think we can all agree it's more barley wine. I mean, it's definitely more barley
Oh, yeah.
wine.
It's
I mean,
definitely more barley wine. I get that stout on the back end. And that's it.
It's unique. I don't think I've had anything like this because I've never heard of anything like this. No, but
cheers.
It's unique.
Yeah.
Cheers to something
Yeah.
unique, boys.
Cheers.
No,
Cheers
this
to that.
this is definitely a treat, man.
And so I think next we're going to dive right into the Bell's Black Note 2016. We're going to do batch 1 and batch 2.
I just
Side
wanna-
by side.
but
I want
before
to tap
we-
out so bad.
No, we got a ways to go. We're done. This is brewery number 1 we just finished.
Okay.
But we're going to
Cinch up
give
those
you...
big boy pants. All right, well, that takes care of Dark Horse Brewing, and I think we've told all of our stories. We've listened to our interviews, and that 4 Elf party, just to wrap it up, was amazing. And I encourage anybody who's able to go check it out. It was December 9th of this past year, 2016. I assume it'll be around the same time next year. And what's really fun about that is we've got all of these other big release parties that same weekend. So we were able to check out Bell's. They had what was the release party that they had about a week earlier? It was their Eccentric, the Bell's Eccentric party.
Yeah.
We didn't care for the beer that came out of that, but we do have some stuff here from Bell's. So what do we have on tap right now?
So what we have is it's only one beer, but it's 2 batches. It's the 2016 Black Note.
Highly sought after.
It's supposedly readily available in Michigan right when the releases are. Limited quantities will filter out to their distribution network. They're charging, $6.99 a bottle, 12-ounce bottle for this stuff in most liquor stores that it hits.
So actually, I was not even aware of this beer before studying for this episode. So what is this? I mean, I'm aware of many of the Bell Stouts, but
It's actually a release they do every 2 years. So every 2 years they release the Black Note, and what it is it's a blend of their Expedition Stout and their 2 Cream Stout that they then go ahead and barrel age.
The double cream
double
stout.
cream, yeah.
One of my favorites.
You can taste that, man.
They blend it together and then they barrel age it, and the result is a beautiful concoction, if I may say.
Yeah, they're doing some amazing things at Bell's, and we were lucky enough. We talked about it earlier. We were lucky enough to go to Bell's. It's the middle of the winter, so not a lot of people hanging out in their gorgeous beer garden, but it's there. I mean, if you're there at Bell's in the spring or the summer, you got to check out that beer garden. It's absolutely beautiful. So, Jim, what are your thoughts on this one? What are you picking up?
So I'm really liking this. Now this to me is really speaking to me as a stout. It's nice and dry.
Are you talking batch 1, batch 2? Let's differentiate for our listeners. I mean, they look almost identical. They're pouring just jet black, just completely opaque. Beautiful, beautiful head on both. I think the head on the second batch might be a little thicker than the head on the first batch.
Well, that was because it was
We
put
did
through the
say
physics.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
that
So
was
that
a little bit
definitely-
more, and I don't know if it's the physics itself. That's the taste. Something about it tastes different.
What
It's
I
like
could
more
say
milky.
side by side, more of the double cream stout is coming out in batch 2
Yeah.
than it is in batch 1.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I am liking batch 2 a lot.
Yeah, I really like batch 2. And again, we put batch 2 through the physics, so that might be partly
put
because
both
of the
them.
physics.
But
But
on Christmas, I did full pour of each.
I think it always goes back. I think it always goes back to the smell, because when you aerate it, you get that big head on it.
70% of
Yeah,
taste and smell.
it just
But-
tastes a little different. You know,
not to say that batch 1 tastes bad, because
No. It's still really good.
You can get more
This
of the
is what
barrel.
I love about stouts, though. I mean, huge roasted notes, coffee, toffee, vanilla, the oak coming through. They are bourbon barrel aged. Yep.
Okay.
Freshly
So-
retired bourbon.
So it's, I think the barrel shines through. We don't know. I don't have an exact timing of when they were bottled, if the batches were in different barrels, what was the percentage of the blends.
do we know the alcohol in this?
11.5. Yeah. So I mean, these are.
You're getting a lot more of the barrel, though, in batch 1. And
I would
it's
say yes.
the creaminess. And I believe from batch 1 to batch 2, there is a little variation. How much did you say was the ABV?
11.5.
And I
so
think,
yeah,
I
these
think
are
it was a little
monsters.
lower in batch 2, honestly. I think one was 11.3.
So batch 1 and 2, no difference in recipe other than like a different batch, literally literally like a different batch.
Literally a different batch.
Yeah, so then the difference in ABV would all be about efficiency.
Yeah.
You know, how much were fermentable sugars were they able to get off that batch? So for those who don't know much about the brewing process, when you mash a beer, you have to mash it at a certain temperature in order to get enzymes to activate to transform the starches in the grains into fermentable sugars. If you ferment it or mash it at a lower temperature, the enzymes are going to chomp those long starches into smaller bits. At a higher temperature, you're going to get more unfermentables, which are going to give you a lower ABV but more body. So dryness to sweetness, basically. You're never going to be able to exactly hit the same temperature every time. So you're going to get a 2%, especially in the gallons at level that Bell's makes, right?
Okay. So on the bottles, it actually says. So it was batch 1 came in at 11.2 and batch 2 came in at 10.8.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
It's
That's
just
interesting.
that's weird.
Well, then the internet lies.
Really?
First time I'm hearing that.
I'm shocked.
Breaking news. Breaking news, people.
This is our one breaking news for
This
this
is our gotcha
episode.
journalism.
The internet.
We caught you, internet. We
No,
caught
this is awesome. No, I really like these smooth.
It's very delicious.
Just a great treat. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like a really nice.
It's just like a dessert.
Yeah, I feel like
is.
it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's expensive,
It's almost like
but
a
it
port
is worth
wine
it.
or something. I don't know how to describe it. It's like very sweet, very smooth.
I can't wait to get an interview with some of the head brewers at Bell's. To really talk about some of their other experimental beers. Bell's is doing some amazing things.
And they've been doing it a long time, too.
We just went through Dark Horse, and we'd love to get that
We're one of the
interview,
first,
too.
right?
Maybe we'll have to take a little Michigan trip, all four of us, and get some of these interviews down on wax, right? And if we take a trip like that, we're definitely going to have to stop in at the Livery. Jim, I think this place is right up your wheelhouse. You're a fan of the German styles.
Yep.
I mean, we're talking right now. So again, they had mostly sours on their beer list. I kind of wish we had picked some of them up because we're eventually going to do that sour episode, and these were bourbon barrel aged sours, so I'm kind of excited about them. But at the same time, we talked about how we had limited room in the car, and we just couldn't pick them all up. So we went with the most German, kind of in your vein. So we went with a Doppelbock, we went with a Schwarzbier, a black ale, and we also went with the triple Weizenbock, which has won some awards. Tell us about those.
So the triple Weizenbock has won gold in the Rate Beers Week category. But first up is the Doppelbock, and which is one of my favorite styles. I love a frickin' Doppelbock, a great Doppelbock.
And this is a bourbon barrel aged Doppelbock. So
Which is a new, that's a first for me.
How does that change the flavor for you?
There's a touch of some of that barrel in the background, that bourbon sweetness that's normally not there in a Doppelbock. Normally
nice.
a Doppelbock is very dry. It's a lager normally, so you get a very dry flavor to it. So this is a treat for me. I think it does well. I think it really does. It's nice and dark, but you still get a lot of I would say it actually accentuates a lot of the plum and raisin flavors that you normally get in a Doppelbock.
You know what, Jim? You know why that barrel bourbon taste is so far out of it? So this was bottled on a 11.25 at 14.
Wow.
So it was bottle conditioned after it was in the barrel.
Oh, okay. So
We bought this.
That's what the label says.
We bought this in it was like early December.
Yeah, so
of 2016.
December 9th or December 10th of 2016.
Wow.
What's interesting about the labels is it also gives you the bottle that you got out of a certain number of bottles from that batch. So which bottle do we have from the Liberator there?
We have 61 of 203.
So I mean, we're talking very limited special release, which was it was really incredible that we were able to be there on that day. We had to miss the Four Elves party, but we were already on our way to Three Floyds, so we had bigger nuts to crack.
I'm going to say that I would say that 2014 is probably right on this because it tastes aged to me, right? It's a lot. You're getting a lot of mellow flavors.
It's very mellow, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not very malty as you would expect of a fresh Doppelbock.
What do you think, Jesus? Is this your jam? Are you a Doppelbock fan? I know you like the dark beers, but Doppelbock specifically.
I don't know if it was my jam necessarily, but I think that barrel-aged aspect of it just brings out the sweetness. I know I like heavy beers, as you know, also sweetness,
Mm-hmm.
And this one definitely has that.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about Doppelbocks is that it's not necessarily a heavy beer. So it is, even though it is dark in color, similar to a Guinness, even though technically Guinness is a stout. Guinness comes in, what 3.5%, 4%?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a light, but
Stout
it
in
is
name only.
dark in color.
Is this almost the same kind of consistency as, I want to say, that Dark Horse that...
The six pairs of legs?
No, the other one. The
Four Guys.
Four Guys.
The barley one.
It almost reminds me of that. Just that it doesn't have that fizz. Almost tastes like a wine or something, like a sweet...
Oh, see, I think it's
I would say
very
this is
different,
really
very
aged.
different
I mean,
flavor
the head
than that one.
disappears off of this.
See, I think of it like that just because it is sweet.
Well, we'd love to get some of the head brewers at the Livery, in for an interview if we do take that the Michigan trip and ask them about the 2014 on the bottle. Ask them when they start bottling, when they start aging, what sort of bourbon barrels they're using. I think we did look it up, and on the Weizenbock it was the Four Roses barrels. Is that right, Jim?
That is correct.
So, I think we should have led with the Livery. I mean, we didn't realize the fucking complexity of this stuff before
I was about to say, it
jumped into it.
It does take you on a journey because it just like that Four Guys. It looks like that, smells like that.
Yeah.
It smells sweet.
And double box, I mean, they're very low
But when
hops.
you taste it, man, you really get a different...
It's almost like when you tilt your glass, there's like a sheen.
Yeah.
And it almost looks like sediment, but it's like the liquid sort of, there's different, light refraction through the liquid where you're getting clear on the bottom of the glass, and then it looks like the dark part's floating underneath it.
I get that as well. And I think that really probably comes from the aging. I think it's starting to...
That's a really interesting description, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right on that. Yeah, really fantastic.
And this is also the
beer.
first time I've had an aged double bock, too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
They're doing
a
some
whole
interesting
bunch of new
things.
things here for me.
All right, well, let's check out the next one, which is the aged, not a Schwarzbier, which is, German for black beer, but this is a black ale. It's a bourbon barrel aged black ale. And this one is actually from 2016, according to the bottle. I don't know. What do we think of this? Jesus?
I don't know, man.
Okay. I guess we
It just
can't...
has a bad aftertaste to me.
We can't exactly compare it to the bourbon barrel aged
The Doppelbock, yeah.
Doppelbock, yeah.
No,
so it's going to be a
two
different flavor.
It is two different beers, but the aftertaste is just not a fan of that.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's
I
almost
see
like
what you're saying.
I don't want to say skunky, but it's almost like
It's not skunky.
it's
That's not the
skunky.
right. That's
No,
not the right thing.
I'm trying to think of the term. Bitter? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's something there. There's something there at the end.
This
Yeah,
is
it's
also
just-
bottled on 2014 as well.
I think let's see if
Oh, this one's
let's see if
okay.
the triple.
I almost want to
2014.
say it's somewhere between bitter and sour.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
There are definitely sour notes. I think this is
yeah,
our...
yeah.
No, is this the first one that
So
might have
is that-
turned on us?
It's a sign of turning almost.
Oh,
but
shit,
it's on
did
the
it
turn?
back end. It's on the back end. It turns on the back end. If it did,
Yeah, but that's what I'm
I
saying.
think
On
that
the
was
back
maybe
end, that's when it
intentional.
And I'll tell you
exactly.
what.
If it's that subtle, it probably is because you're gonna get that. If it's really infected, you're gonna get a buttery smell right off the bottle, and it's gonna be too sweet to even drink.
No, because you're right.
Okay.
Because the first.
So it hasn't turned, but we think that might be intentional. Okay, that's interesting.
See, now I'm curious to get into the whole aging conversation with this particular beer.
And it's also interesting because when we were researching the Livery, just in the last week before the podcast, I did come across a disclaimer on their website where they said that from here on out, they're actually going to go to a malt beverage in a bourbon barrel, which is the same sort of thing that places like Central Waters are doing with their bourbon barrel aged stout and things like that, because it's a little bit of a safer process. If you just put wild yeast and everything into that barrel, sometimes it's going to go a little bit nuts. It's going to do some things that you didn't intend for it to do. And so the malt beverage is a little bit safer, but you're still going to pick up all those amazing, barrel notes. This may be the last of its kind. You know what I mean? Like this, other than some of the sours, which they're going to continue to barrel age, this may be the last of its kind.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do like a full pour of this.
No.
This is a weird one to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's decent. It's weird. I don't like the back end.
it's one of those where you just want. I'm glad I'm tasting it. Glad I'm trying it, but I'm just.
Doppelbock,
I would think-
Doppelbock is a win.
Yeah, the Doppelbock's total
The
win.
Doppelbock
I would
is a
say
win.
without the bourbon barrel,
This is
this
solid.
is just kind of nothing.
I would say
Yeah.
this is a solid non-win,
Okay,
Yeah,
this
this
is
is
a
kind of-
non-win,
this
which
is
puts it
kind of a
below a
non-win.
non-fail.
which is not good.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it a
there's
fail.
nothing to it.
I wouldn't
really.
call it a fail because they put it through the bourbon barrel aging process. It's got some interesting notes,
I'm just really.
but
trying,
it's not something I'd run back to.
I'm just trying to really describe it because it's like a cross between bitter, sour, and I almost want to say flat.
Yeah,
it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like
It's overaged. I think it's
Yeah.
whatever flavor may have been there has been aged out.
So we're saying they almost went through too much work.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes. This might be an example of, not that we're getting the stale cardboardy notes, but that's just flat out nothing.
Yeah, and it's a little disappointing when I think we can agree that the Weizenbock is a solid non-fail edging into win territory. This one not so much. Not so much.
I just think it's weird. But
All right, well, let's get into our third one here.
Yeah, let's keep going.
The gold medal winning triple Weizenbock. And this is the only one of the three that has the wax top. It's got all the bells and all the whistles.
Special.
So up next is the Bourbon Barrel Aged Triple Weizenbock. Alex, what do we think here?
Holy man, that actually burns on the way down. What is the alcohol percentage on that?
This is our biggest boy. You better be having some big boy pants on this boy. 16%.
okay, I'm out of here. See you guys.
Yeah, this one is kicking you in the crotch and making you cry, uncle.
See, no, this is the one where I only bought one of the two others, the Schwarzbier and the Doppelbock. But this one I bought two of so that we could have a tasting and I could lay one down. I was thinking about laying it down for a year. I feel like two, maybe three might be appropriate on this one.
Put it in your basement.
Now, why did you buy two of these?
Oh, absolutely, so that I could throw one in the cellar and that we could do one for the podcast tasting.
No, this beer is intense, man.
That's hardcore.
This is it's a step up from rubbing alcohol. It is
No, that's not fair.
Yeah, there's
That's
more
not
flavor than that.
No, I shouldn't say that, but it is boozy, it is heavy, and it is
We're talking about another completely opaque beer. I mean, just completely black, out of the glass.
well,
this is the kind of stuff I like.
Do you guys have any head? I mean, my head has completely disappeared.
No.
This is boozy.
This is what I like though. It's heavy. It has that booziness, but it's when you're smelling it is sweet. It is very sweet.
It's complex, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, this will definitely be something that does well from aging. So something we don't talk about much is really where does beer get its flavor from, and a lot of it is from the yeast. Now, yeast has a certain ABV that it can get up to. In order to get into 16%, either they've got some pretty strong yeast that they're putting in here, or they do something later on to strengthen the ABV.
I'd say once you get over that initial alcohol punch in the face, it does have like some complexities to it.
Oh, definitely,
It definitely does.
But it's heavy, man. It is really heavy.
Yeah,
That's what I
it's
mean. Like when
right
I say that I want to lay this one down or put it in the cellar for a while, I can't wait to taste what the barrel tastes like.
Yeah, but
because I'm not getting any barrel right now. It's such a strong beer that I'm not getting any barrel from it.
Yeah.
I'm getting the strength, the booziness.
Let's extrapolate this out. What do you think you'll get after aging this? Because it already has the sweetness. It's already high.
Well, we're talking about the Four Roses barrels. So, like we said, Andy and I tried that Bell's, which had been aged in Four Roses barrels, re-aged in fresh Four Roses barrels, and that is a beautiful taste. I mean, Four Roses bourbon, if you haven't had it, treat yourself. It's delicious.
See, and I might go out on a limb here, but I don't think this was barrel aged even a quarter of as long as the ones at Bell's.
Well, that was 18 months. Yeah, that's a crazy amount of time to age.
Just from the difference we saw in their other bottles of how long they were bottle conditioned, the Livery is going more for, okay, we're going to stick it in the barrels for a short amount of time. Then we're going to bottle it. Then we're going to bottle age it. Because if you look at it, I mean, 203, 204 beers on those other batches, that's only 17 cases of Bomber. I mean, I could fit like 4 pallets in my basement.
The booziness is
disagree.
there. The booziness is there, but I just don't.
I disagree. I think maybe the other two, the Sojourner and the Liberator, might have been bottled and then aged in the bottles. This one, I feel like has been aged very well in bourbon barrels. I think they really took their time with this one.
The only thing that would make me think that and agree with you is the sweetness. It is. I feel like it's been aged.
So I guess I would agree. It's probably been about a year.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's.
I think about a year in the barrel. That sounds about right.
There's something about it. Like I don't know the science behind it. I don't
disagree
anything.
On the age in the barrel.
It is a wheat.
Too hot,
right? Because so it's a Weizenbock.
Yeah, so it's a wheat.
It's made with wheat, so that's going to.
We're just going to give it some extra sweetness.
Yeah. So that alone will do it. And then you got the Bock, which is
it's just complex. Maybe
it's very complex.
There is no way to describe it.
Let's talk about the
it's
flavor.
Not something we normally get. I mean,
let's talk about the flavor because I'm
getting
getting
debate over this one.
Yeah, because
I'm getting a lot of sweetness at the very beginning. beginning. So I get where you're coming from, but there's a depth of flavor to this one. As I drink it and as it warms up, I mean, let's be honest about that. As it warms up, it kind of changes flavors. There's a depth. I mean, once you get to the very base of this beer, the very last taste that you get of it, there's something there that makes me want to come back for more.
Would you consider it boozy?
It's boozy. Yeah, it's absolutely boozy. But like I said, as it warms up and as I warm up to it, there's something at the very
fades away a little bit with the warmth.
If you age it, would it still be boozy?
I think it's maybe the oakiness that I'm getting at the very end. It's like a little oak and a little bit of vanilla. Like the barrel speaks to me at the very end, whereas on some of the beers that we've drunk, the barrel speaks to you right off the bat, and this one, it's like the beer is so strong and so very good that the barrel I don't get until the very end, and I want more of it, and I want to age it.
The barrel is super limited right now. I'm getting a ton of the esters, which is a lot of banana right now from the yeast.
Yeah, and that would make sense with the Weizenbock. If we're talking about a Weiss type of a Bock, you're going to get some
bready, banana, because the yeast has got to just be going crazy on this stuff. They must pump so much sugar to get 16%.
Yeah, like a chocolate banana.
Well, the sugar's
bread
definitely
almost.
in the front end and the smell. You can, on the tail end, I can see what you're saying, Alex, for sure.
This is why the podcast and the tastings that we're doing are so fantastic, because we can really get into this. And some of the beers, I mean, we've had total agreement on. Some of the Imperial Stouts, it's like, yeah, that's good. We like that beer. But this one is unlike anything that we've ever had, and it breeds a lot of conversation. And so I think this is really the fascinating part about podcasting beer tastings like we're doing.
Yeah.
But bottom line is, like, you just don't even know how to describe something.
And the other thing is, mine's almost flat. I mean, there's super
definitely
carbonation.
flat, yeah.
So that's another thing. We're not getting that brightness that the CO2 would normally get. I think this will get more carbonated as whatever remaining yeast in the bottle has a chance to carbonate.
Maybe the booziness.
As Jim McCabe said, you can't try a beer too early, but you can try one too late.
Yeah.
But this is a little early. This needs a lot more
a couple
time.
of years, the booziness is just going to completely go away from this one, and you're just going to almost have like a.
God, it's going to be like almost like a port wine.
It's going to be like
it's
going to be like a caramel
16%.
toffee like biscuit.
I just think
type
of it.
thing.
I just think of it. Yeah, it's going to be a dessert wine or like a port wine.
A dessert beer. Okay, I like that idea.
We'll see you in 2020.
Serve it warm. Serve it warm.
Yeah, room temperature.
Cellar. Well,
temperature.
like 50-55 degrees.
Because that's
pull it out of your fridge for at least a half an hour.
Yeah, I want to revisit this.
We got a hot one here.
Yeah.
Well, I will say a beer that breeds this much conversation, I think edges into win territory. I think it's complex, it's different, it's there's a lot of things to talk about there.
No,
and speaking of talking about beers, let's get back into our listener feedback. We've got one more piece. We've got Vince Clore, friend of the podcast. He's actually given us some of our theme music. Vince Clore, member of the Gleasons, an Irish rock band that is giving us some amazing music for our podcast. We're really thankful. And Vince emails us, from laser snakes to desert eagle wielding kittens riding unicorns, do you or have you guys ever bought beer based on the label artwork? How important do you think it is for an up-and-coming craft brewery to put emphasis on the label, or should just the quality of the beer, word of mouth, be enough in the crowded beer space? Any favorite beer labels for you guys? And I think this is really important because we just went from a brewery, the Livery, where, let's describe this label. It's very basic. The label for each of the 3 beers that we tried was exactly the same, other than the name of the beer. So it's a livery. It's a guy bashing a horseshoe or something. It's very cool. It's a very cool label, but it's the same label for every beer.
Yep.
And I think this is an appropriate time to talk about it because the brewery that we're leading into, Andy, what's the next brewery?
We're leading into is Oddside Ales. They have a bunch of different types of beers. So the actual label that we're leading into is called Hazel's Nuts, and it's a bearded woman on the label. And it's a stout aged in bourbon barrels with coffee and natural hazelnut flavors. So the lady boy on the label is Hazel's Nuts.
I think all the labels have that unique look to them. So
brightly colored compared to the Livery, which is jet black.
Yeah.
With a little bit of red.
And we were just at Dark Horse where all the labels, we made a couple mistakes.
We're similar.
But all the labels are pretty similar. So I guess for me personally, I still go by like word of mouth. I look for the beer.
Too.
Yeah, reviews. But I bought the first Fantasy Factory because of the label. You know, I bought that because it was so unique. It was so weird. So
I've got a hard line because I mean I agree that the Fantasy Factory is really good. I love Fantasy Factory.
Let's just say that. Let's just say.
But it's great design too.
Let's just say for our listeners that the Fantasy Factory is the one that Vince was talking about, where it is literally a Desert Eagle wielding cat wearing a Rambo bandana on top of a flame breathing unicorn with the Mario Brothers castle in the background. I mean, it's like everything that you wanted as a 14-year-old on a beer label. It's incredible.
Originally a meme though, wasn't it?
No, I believe that was the
this is the original.
This is an original label.
This is I don't know who does the labels for them, but they're totally crazy.
And we're talking about Carbon 4 Brewing in Madison, which is they're doing some really kind of crazy things with some of their labels.
There's some
they have portraits like paintings from the guy who does all the designs that it's his interpretation of each beer in art form.
I don't think they kind of relate to each other, but they're unique. Like a brewery like Three Floyds. They all kind of look like...
Three Floyds is the other one that Vince was talking about with the laser snakes, right? Or it's literally a snake firing laser beams. I mean, you can't get more crazy than something like that.
So I got a hard line on the design because I mean, if it's a shelf beer, okay, and you got a crazy design like that, it's meant to pop out at you. Right?
Yeah, you're going to grab my attention if I don't know you.
Yeah, you're definitely going to grab attention with that.
I'm definitely looking for beers I know. What do I want? Do I know it's good? And I'm looking for that. But if I'm just looking for a beer, a more colorful label is going to grab my attention.
Yeah, but because I think I'm with Jim too. Because it's like at the end of the day, you go look for something. If it's not there, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Grab it.
Well, I think it's a tough balance for breweries who are putting these labels on because they want to be identified as that brewery, right? You want to look at a shelf and be able to identify a certain brewery, but then they also want within that brewery to be differentiated by the different beers that they're doing. So that's where I think Dark Horse, which is what we've been doing tonight, is kind of getting it right. They have something where I know it's definitely Dark Horse, but then everyone is a little bit different. Yeah. But then also, I mean, I can't say that I don't love the Three Floyds, because what Three Floyds has done is they've gone in conjunction with some of the tattoo artists and some of the music label producing designers, where they've done just these crazy labels where it's Three Floyds, but it's also got like this thrash metal kind of aspect to it.
They've also combined
tattoo artists, and it's amazing.
Yeah, but my two favorite breweries are Lakefront, and their label is so simple. And then my other favorite brewery is Schleifling St. Louis. All their labels are like the circle logo and a variation of that logo.
So I will say I'm a sucker for a square stuck on its edge. One of my favorite labels is simple too, but it's from Boulevard Brewing Company out of Kansas City. It's a square tilted up, and I don't know what it is about squares on its edge, but I fucking love.
Wow, I think both you and I go simplicity. I mean, you
create a different.
I like something crazy. Yeah, I think Andy's kind of the same.
I like a little bit crazier labels too. I mean, but like some of the best beers have like the weirdest labels. I mean, like Big Hugs from Half Acre.
That was a good one.
They change the label every year,
but it always involves that cat.
Yeah, it always involves a certain kitten. So one year, like, it was fighting Godzilla on the label. The next year, it was smashing the White House.
I think one year was fighting zombies or something, and
a Walking Dead theme to it.
And you mean generic Asian monster lizard, right?
Yes, a generic Asian monster lizard set out to destroy the world.
No,
this
is a generic.
Was not Godzilla.
Generic Asian monster kitten.
Whoever owns the Godzilla franchise, we have no money. Please do not sue us.
But you have to have a label that stands out in order to differentiate yourself from the multitude of beers that are out there now.
And speaking of a label that stands out, let's talk about this Hazel's Nuts, which
So
It is a crazy label. It's a man lady. It's a bearded lady.
She's a handsome woman.
You know, and a Traveler's Freak Show is the marquee behind her on the label.
There's nuts there.
There's tons of hazelnuts.
What do we think of the hazelnut on this one?
Man, there's nuts there.
Yeah, there's.
I think it's a nice balance. I actually kind of like
It is
this one.
I'm not a hazelnut kind of guy.
What's the alcohol in that?
ABV. Let's be professional here.
Yeah.
Doesn't say actually.
I like the
This is
Bourbon
why people
Barrel.
hate you, Jim.
I like the Bourbon
They
Barrel.
love me.
And your family.
I like the Bourbon Barrel aging on this one. I think it's, let's talk about Lakefront, which was our episode 1 podcast. They had just recently their My Turn series with the Mike's Turn, which was a hazelnut infused stout. And I kind of like this one a little better just because of the Bourbon Barrel aging. But both, I don't know, maybe I'm a sucker for hazelnut. It's very nice.
It wasn't a stout though. It was an Imperial Brown, wasn't it?
You're right. I'll
had it
correct
today.
myself on that. It was an Imperial Brown. I thought it picked up the hazelnut really nicely, but when you age this thing in a bourbon barrel,
Man, the aftertaste is strong, man.
There's coffee in this
Definitely
too.
taste
the hazelnut is all about the aftertaste.
I think that might complement the hazel, but I mean,
Well,
I'm
see,
getting
I-
all hazel.
I think the
does.
hazel's on the front end. The back end is.
Well, I think it's both. I think it's both, and I think it really smooths out the back end.
Like the
Now,
bottle.
I think the back end is very coffee.
is this a beer that you would cellar age, Jim?
I think it might benefit a little bit from cellaring, but maybe mute the hazelnutish a bit.
I agree.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan.
I would hope that the hazelnut would.
I would love to
settle in a
have
little
this
bit to
sit
the
for a
beer.
year.
I wouldn't do it more than a year. I agree with you, Jesus.
A year would be
I mean,
perfect.
it really reminds
Let
me
it
of some.
settle in a little bit, and it's gonna be a lot better.
It reminds me of some weird Belgium chocolate.
I have no other way to describe it other than
They
it
love
has that edge.
shoving
to it.
hazelnut into their chocolates.
It has that edge to it. I just think a year would be like it would smooth it out.
Yeah, for me,
Okay.
it's personally not a big hazelnut fan, so it's way too much hazelnut for me. But
I think so too.
it is good though. I mean, I will say that because it smells well, so there's no fighting of the flavors.
It is. It's kind of a dirty beer, as the bottle says. Life's sweeter when it's wrapped in debauchery.
Debauchery.
I like that. All right, well, let's compare this to the Hipster's Brunch. So this is a bourbon barrel aged, coffee, maple syrup, and bacon added beer.
Oh.
So the first time I tried this, which was not tonight, it was another time, I remember saying to Andy, boy, this is really interesting because of the smoky flavor. What do you think that's coming from? And he read the label and he's like, oh, well, that's the bacon. So I got a smoky aspect from the bacon. What do you guys think?
I'm liking this because the smoke is not as intense as other beers. It's
as if it was just a smoked beer.
Yeah.
There's certain bacon beers in this area.
You know what I'm saying?
I've had a bacon beer and it's way too bacony and it's kind of terrible.
No, they
so
overdo
nice.
it, both the smoke and the bacon. This is has that slight smoke.
Yeah, this is done way better. It done with care.
What do you think about the sweetness from the maple?
I
think it complements.
It's
more kind of a breakfast.
I don't even know how to say, but it's
like a hipster's brunch almost.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Like a breakfast.
No, but this is really well balanced.
You
It
get
has
the
the
flavors
sweetness,
of
it has the
breakfast.
smoke, it has the bacon. This is very good.
This one I like better than the hazel's nuts.
Mhm.
This is
Yeah, I
one
would
that
agree
I
with
think
that.
you could drink this one now. I don't even know about laying this one down.
No, I
You
wouldn't.
don't
this
have
is-
to. You don't
this
have
one's
to.
ready
This
to
is
go.
a not sellable.
I mean, it's cellarable. It might be interesting to try it a year from now, but I think this one's
This
ready
is
to
one you
go.
want to
Face
drink
it.
now.
What natural flavors are in this beer? It's an adjunct, right? So you lay this down for a year, the flavors that we're getting now
Aren't going to be there.
they're not going to be there anymore. So what's the point?
No,
Drink it
this-
now.
This is like one of the fresh.
And
Just
looking
drink
at the
this as
barrel,
soon as you can.
this was actually bottled on 11/7/16, and we're now drinking it on 127, 128, 17.
It's not that far.
So it's not that far, but I think it's been enough that this is perfect.
No,
This is
I like-
this is about peak
This
for
is
this beer.
this is another one of those treats because of the balance. I really like it.
Yeah,
Sweet, smoky, the bacon,
Well,
everything.
that's the key word, balance.
Yeah.
You know,
We'll see how the last two go, but right now, I mean, odds side's edging into win territory for me as a brewery as a whole right now.
I still say
just-
solid non-fail because I don't give anything a win. So
I
let's
would definitely say
You're that
solid,
guy, huh?
solid non-fail on
yeah.
solid non-fail on the Hazel's nuts, but Hipster's Brunch is definitely definitely edging into win territory for me.
But so on the next two, I mean, the next beer we're going to do is actually a rye version of the hipster.
Oh, all right.
Oh, okay.
Well, that'll be interesting because
And
it'll add
then,
some pepper spice
yeah.
to it.
I love that.
Then
And
we're
then
gonna
what's-
end off.
what's the last
We're
one?
gonna end off with the spicy. I'm not a big fan of spicy beers, but I've heard good things about it. Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Mayan Mocha Stout with coffee, cinnamon, nutmeg, and habaneros.
All
added.
right. All right, man. That rye hipster. Let's do it.
So what do you think?
I like it, man. Sweet. Definitely has, you can taste like it's still the same.
What
It's
is-
definitely a cousin of the hipster.
What's the difference? What's the difference? We just tried the regular hipsters brunch. Now it's the rye hipsters brunch. So what are we tasting differences?
I'm getting a little bit of the spiciness of the rye.
No, yeah, because that's the only thing I feel is different. It's more boozy, I guess you would say.
No, I wouldn't say more boozy. I think it's the same amount of boozy. All across the board, it's almost the same beer, but there's a little bit of spiciness just from that rye. A little sweetness
slight
too.
pepper edge to it.
I feel like rye is going to give it a little sweetness and a little bit of pepper.
I just feel like it's more boozy, but maybe it's just something at the back of the throat, you know? Maybe
Honestly,
that's the
I like,
spice.
I like it better than the regular hipster.
Really?
I really do.
Wow.
I like it better than the regular hipster.
No, I think this has more of an edge to it.
I like the edge.
I know but I like the other one just because I felt it was more smooth.
I mean, you're still getting the bacon, you're still getting the maple, you're still getting everything about the hipster brunch. It's just that little bit of rye that's,
No, but I
that
feel like
sets it off.
if it's like columns or whatever, it's like everything kind of gets pushed down and the rye or something gets pushed out. So it's like more mellow on everything else. That's what I like the other one because it had the sweet, had everything there. This one just has a little bit more, whatever that rye is pushed up. What is a rye? Like what is...
Tell us about our barrels.
Try. Like what makes that rye? Like what is that taste that I'm saying?
It has nothing to do with it. It's the same barrels. It's really the grain that's used. And exactly what you're talking about, Alex, is that it adds a touch of more sweetness and some spiciness, pepper kind of flavor.
So that's what it is.
To it.
Okay, because that's what I feel like that's pushing up, like that spiciness.
Yeah.
I could definitely feel it on the tail end, and definitely on the tail end, it's that spiciness in the.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you could describe that. Like the difference between lettuce and arugula. You know, there's a spiciness to arugula that a lettuce doesn't have. Like for our listeners who are just experiencing this, we have to be very specific with our taste profiles, and that's one that I could give. Yeah, you know what I mean. There's all sorts of different taste profiles, but
So do you think the bacon smokiness, sweetness is all the same? But
I
the
feel
rye-
like that's the same. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it's that spiciness that kind of makes me think that it's different. It just there's something about it that overpowers me on the back end.
Oh, okay.
And it could be.
Not, like in a good way or a bad way?
In a bad way, because I think the first one was better because it didn't have that tail on it, I guess.
See, I like the rye. I actually like a rye whiskey, so I really like that, and this one really appeals to me.
What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, Jim, do you prefer this one or do you prefer the regular?
I think the rye one is trying
hipster's brunch.
to do a little too much. It adds a little bit too much sweetness, and though the pepper kind of melds well with the bacon because like a pepper bacon, so a whole lot of breakfast stuff going on. But I like the original a little bit better. I think the rye is just trying to do a little bit too much.
Maybe that's
there
what
are
I
times
said.
where you can add too many flavors, and you're trying to do too much at one time, and you get a little confused.
And maybe that's what I sense too, because it's just that extra spiciness and maybe that is what you were saying, the rye. That a little extra is what is not doing it for me. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, Jim, Andy, you've tried a number of these breakfast type of stouts. How does this one level up for you?
Well, I'm not going to go into the other ones right now because you've been listening to us long enough. But I will say that I differentiate from the rest of you where I will take the rye over the original.
Wow,
I like the booziness that's added to it. And speaking of different profiles going into it, I mean, yes, that rye did change the original a lot.
Let me just say that this one I feel like doesn't necessarily need to get aged. We've talked about aging beers, and I feel like these are all set. These are all set to
I would
go.
say none of these need to get aged.
Yeah. So how about the Imperial Mayan Mocha? Does that one? Do you feel feel like that one needs to get laid down, or do you feel like that one's also ready to go? Because this one's going to have a little bit of spiciness.
This is
to
so complex to me because it almost tastes like
There's a
as you
lot
go,
in it.
as you go through it.
Yeah, this
you
is-
get that smell of almost like that. Have you guys had the Mexican hot chocolate?
Yes.
With that, yeah.
Yeah, the Mexican quote unquote.
With the
I prefer
cinnamon.
south of the border.
With the cinnamon, right?
Yeah.
So
A
as
little
you go through
cinnamon,
it, you get that little
a little
smell.
hot.
I mean, this is.
But for what
it's
they're trying to
I
do.
mean, it's a solid. I do not like spicy beers. Okay. And especially with like the habanero sculpin. I drank one of those and I was like, I will never drink this again.
Yeah, this has
But-
definitely
one
got
was
some
enough.
heat.
Yeah, one was
This
enough.
has heat.
It
It's
has
chili.
heat, but it's like so on the back end, and there's so many.
It's so on the back end for
the,
sure.
the nutmeg mixes in with the cinnamon in the beer, and it's it kind of like chills out that habanero that was just on the back end. It doesn't linger.
Weird.
Do you think the habanero would be better after a year of aging on this one? Do you think it would settle in?
Like I said before, it's an adjunct, and okay, who knows where it's gonna be a year from now?
That's
If
that's the
they're-
fun part.
We don't know. Are these natural? Are they actually like smoking habaneros and putting it in the beer, or are they putting just some capsaicin in there with the habanero alternative flavoring?
See, with outside and some of the other things that they're doing, I give them enough credit that I feel like that's real habaneros. But
Yeah, I would think
but I
for
could be
generally
wrong.
for
I could
breweries,
be wrong.
But
it's going to
really-
be much easier to get real stuff than try to do artificial stuff.
I
'cause
just
you gotta
really-
have actual chemists to do that.
I just really like the journey of this. The sweetness.
There's a lot going on. This is a very
then
complex beer.
I really think that Mexican hot chocolate taste and then that spiciness at the end. I don't know if I can drink too many of these.
No,
just because
this
it's
is-
so unique. But I enjoy the journey that I'm going with
Yeah.
this beer.
They're all good, and they're just all like straight out the bottle. Don't age them, just drink them.
Yeah, these are all
Oh,
straight
I
up
agree,
ready
definitely.
to drink.
I agree. Just drink it, enjoy it. But I just, man, if I couldn't do, we're doing like little taster sizes, but I don't know if I could do a full bottle of this.
Is that our verdict on Outside Ales? Is definitely drink these as they come to
Yes,
you, and
for sure.
maybe not worth an aging in the cellars.
I wouldn't age these.
Yeah, I know that there may be some benefit aging them, but they're ready right now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. The flavors are melded. They're complex. You may mute some off flavors, but not much.
Yeah. Are we done? Finally?
Done.
Alex, I think we gotta wrap it up. I
Okay.
think we gotta wrap it up. Jim, I want Jim to bury the whole beer rating process, but that's gonna be in a later episode.
That's going to be in a different episode.
But let's finish this up. What
So
do you
let's-
got? What do you got,
let's-
Alex?
Let's wrap this up. So we want you to contact us, and we want to hear about your thoughts on the beers that we just tasted. We want to hear your thoughts on the beers that we're going to taste. We'll be posting some of those tap lists forthcoming. Everything beer related. Anything that you have to say about our podcast, we want to hear it. And I think that's it, boys, because it feels like there's no more beer.
There's no more beer.
No more beer.
No more beer.
He said there's no more beer, no more beer, no more beer for you. So I went to Murphy's house to find the elusive pint. I guess my friends were already there. There was nothing left to spare, and with sadness in the air, Tommy Murphy said these sad words to me. He said, there's no more beer, no more beer, no more beer for you. He said, there's no